We're good now.
Okay.
So we're going to talk primarily about this teaching of the two truths, the conventional or relative, as it's sometimes referred to, and the absolute, which the reason why this comes up in connection with the study of the Heart Sutra is because of that phrase early on in the sutra about that which is form is emptiness. So form is conventional, relative, and emptiness is the absolute, the ultimate. So the Heart Sutra is telling us that the one is the other, that they are, it's not really putting it in these words, but essentially what's being, the picture being drawn for us is that they are interdependent. They depend upon one another. And that's a sign of their emptiness, because the emptiness of all things is the interdependence of all things. So no emptiness, no form. No form, no emptiness. So we come back then to the absolute and the conventional. They are interdependent. So if there's no conventional, the world of this and that, then there's no absolute. They're inseparable. And this then we can see as kind of a prelude to the next sutra we're going to look at, not a sutra, poem, more aptly described, Sandokan, the merging of difference and unity. So we're getting a head start on that right here in the Heart Sutra. They are merged. They're always merged. You can't find one without the other. So it's not that we're bringing them together. We're awakening to the fact that they are together, always. So the Heart Sutra is basically about seeing the emptiness of all things. But early on, it's kind of being slipped in here, just to kind of serve as an inoculation, you might say, against falling into nihilism, through the insight into the emptiness of all things, which this sutra is a skillful means to lead us to that insight. But beware that doesn't mean you've gone over the cliff and that the conventional world no longer exists. So as Shahaku expresses it, this Dharma that the Buddha has taught, and that is definitely carried forward in the Mahayana traditions, is that the reality of our own lives is based on these two truths of relative and absolute. Both truths, not just the truth of the absolute, because this is a way of seeing the Dharma that many students kind of get captured by through their study of texts like the Heart Sutra, the Diamond Sutra, or as we'll be looking at Saturday, one of the widely used entry koans, the koan of Mu, is also about seeing the emptiness of all things. So it's easy to fall into that trap. Buddhism is about not attaching to things. The way Buddhism teaches to avoid that is to see their emptiness. If we see the emptiness, then we'll no longer have that propensity to attach. As we understand, if we understand no self, then who is it that's going to attach? If I go off trying to accumulate a lot of things, why would I do that? I'm not. They're empty, I'm empty, the emptiness of the three wheels, as we say in Zen. Giver, receiver, and rather than gift, just say the object. The object's floating around, and in our world of commerce, rather than giver, receiver, it's buyer, seller, and commodity. But they're all empty. They're all interdependent, and there's no value to be found in any single one of those, including myself. My value and the value of everything else is by means of their emptiness, their interdependence. Because I can't even exist without it. So how the hell can I have value in and of myself or anything else? So we absolutely have to have this reality of interdependence for anything to have meaning. If we all existed independently, that's when there'd be no meaning. You know, what's the meaning of any given thing? Since I have nothing to do with anything else. How can I even begin to puff myself up? Those who do, in the world of samsara, those who do puff themselves up. The only reason they can do that, they're confessing right up front their dependence on others, so that others have to see them as being superior. Right? Otherwise, they couldn't achieve that. So even in our delusion, that's why we can awaken right in the middle of it. We can recognize, oh, it's actually through my interdependence that I'm even deluded. I can't be deluded any other way than through my interdependence. And so in awakening is seeing that. Samsara is living it.
Yeah.
Truly. It really is. So that's this merging of the relative and the absolute, of the conventional and the real with the capital R. The true. And as I mentioned last week, Nagarjuna enters into this section of the chapter. And he's this scary figure in Mahayana tradition who's perhaps more impenetrable than Dogen even. And that's saying so. But the good news is Thich Nhat Hanh has a book that I've mentioned before, and I understand a number of you already own it. Maybe it hasn't been read yet, but you own it.
First couple of pages.
Tracking the walnut. So there is a way through that master of making the Dharma accessible, Thich Nhat Hanh, that we can kind of begin to get our feet wet, so to speak, with Nagarjuna. And Nagarjuna said that those who don't know this distinction between the two truths cannot understand the profound nature of the Buddha's teaching. So that's reason enough, right? To crack the book, cracking the walnut. Or at least find a way to enter into this teaching. But we're going to do that to a certain degree tonight. So that's what I want to spend the rest of this evening doing. So, of course, the profound nature of the Buddha's teaching is prajna, wisdom, the kind of the crown jewel of the paramitas, prajna. the perfection of wisdom, wisdom beyond wisdom. So if this is the ultimate grounding of the Dharma, is the teaching of emptiness, the teaching of interdependence, the teaching of no self nature, on up, no self. This is where the understanding of the absolute and the relative becomes paramount. We have to understand them both. Even though the Heart Sutra is focused on the absolute, but let's just start there. To understand, and I mean really see it, that it goes beyond the idea, and this is the reason for koans, is a koan becomes something that you actually live with. So what I'm inviting people to do is to live with this teaching of that which is form is emptiness, that which is emptiness form. That which is conventional, samsaric, relative, is the absolute. Because it's all too easy, the way we have gone through the education system. We kind of take it in, we say, okay, I got it. You got it because you can recite that, right? That's what we term getting it. Yeah, you give me a quiz, I got it down. Multiple choice, I've absolutely got it. If I have to write it from scratch, I have it so well, I think I could even do that. I could fill in the blank. And that's really something. So yeah, I got it. And that's the way we view things, let's be honest. But to really get it is that you see things that way. You don't know how to answer the question about what is emptiness, what is conventional. You live it. You can live in each of those realms with equal comfort, and you can freely move between them because you understand that they're always present, both of them. So to practice this so that you can begin to actually take it in, and it informs our view of the world, and once that really sinks in, then it informs our actions in the world. We have to actually go through our experience seeing things from both sides. The title of this section of the chapter is Both Sides. Do the Joni Mitchell tweak and make it both sides now, which is very appropriate because it has to be now. That's another key aspect of Zen teaching. It's now. So it can't just be left as a thought in our mind, a concept. We need to see both sides right here. Experience after experience after experience. How they are empty, while at the same time having their conventional truth. Yeah, as Shahaku points out in the chapter, he can describe a bunch of different qualities about him. His national heritage being Japanese, his position in society being a Zen priest teacher, his family role as a husband, as a father. He has all these roles he plays, leading a Sangha back at the time he was writing this. Now he's reached the highest level of emeritus status, one we all seek. But those don't capture who Shahaku is, because there is no shahaku there. There's nothing of any substantiality. All of those are predicated on interdependence. So we can easily see actually how interdependence interweaves with all of our particularities. In Shahaku's case, the happenstance of his birth, totally dependent. He wasn't self-created. So to trace that back, of course, he could begin with his parents, but for those who enjoy building out family trees and get into the practice of genealogy, you could go back and trace family generation before generation before generation. Or we could study anthropology, or we could study history. So many ways we could study that, just that one little aspect of Shahaku. Of course, the fact that he is a Zen teacher makes, as we know, for ourselves, we are interdependent with all the ancestors, with all the teachers that we've ever encountered, with all the texts we've ever encountered, with all the practice leaders we've practiced with. So there's that rich web of interdependence. And you get the general picture. Whatever aspect of Shahaku we chose, it's part of that vast interdependent web. So where is Shahaku? In the midst of all of that. That's why notions of the soul, Atman, were generated, because it wasn't clear. So if it's not clear, you create it. It's the soul. I don't see it, but I know it's got to be there because I see Shahaku. Right? And that name is constant. So that's Shahaku. He must have a soul. And certainly that's true for me, because I have a strong sense of identity. Kind of stretching it there, actually, since practicing Zen. I have to confess I don't have such a strong sense of identity, but I do have one. And it's important that I do, and I carry that one. If I didn't, I probably wouldn't be here. So there's no dean to come to the Zen does. That was another dean that made that commitment. Whatever that guy's name. Right? And none of those people exist either. So why all that fuss about such items? We're all empty. I was really deeply enlightened. I could approach things that way. But that's not it. So we can get the emptiness of all things, but then we have to be able to make the journey back into the conventional world. Because we can't leave it behind, as Shahaku demonstrates very thoroughly in this section. You can't live any other way than within the conventional world and coming to terms with that world. It's fine and dandy. If you have this great awakening, you see the emptiness of all things, and therefore you completely disassociate yourself. If that's even possible, actually it isn't. At least even if you did accomplish that conceptually. Let's just say that you have that deep insight of the emptiness of all things, and as part of that realization, the conventional is swept aside. It's gone. It doesn't exist anymore. Because if that truly happens, none of us would go out into our vehicles that we came here with. We would go back to the homes we came here from. We wouldn't reconnect with the people that we are connected with. None of that. So, do we have a sense of identity? Sure we do. But are we attached to it? This is the beauty of prajna. It does change things. So that if we accept the emptiness, the constant change of things, because of interdependence, impermanence, interdependence, also very closely interwoven. So if I have awakened to the true nature of it, I can re-enter the world of the conventional, but without clinging and grasping. I can now have a sense of self, but not cling to it. I have a sense of the responsibilities I've taken on and what I typically do and how I typically relate to others. And from that, I can then act in ways that promote harmony, well-being. So to see the interdependence of all things, the emptiness of all things is prajna. But to be able to bring that back into the world, to reconnect with the conventional, that's compassion. And Shahaku says as much in this text. That's the key. If we don't re-enter the conventional world, then where is our compassion? That's supposed to be the flip side, one and the same with prajna. How does it manifest? So form and emptiness is also kind of like prajna and compassion. If we relate prajna to emptiness and compassion to form, compassion is actually directed to these fabricated people. I say fabricated because they are empty. They're not absolute beings. But the only way that we can carry out in our activities our understanding of emptiness is through our interdependence with others and to treat them in accord with their conventional existence, how they present themselves. So in other words, I don't have one pat way of acting with people because they're all empty, right? So I could say, well, treat them all the same because they are all the same from an ultimate standpoint. All beings are, but to actually be able to differentiate. First of all, I certainly don't treat our dog the same. Treat her with lots of love and compassion, but in different ways. I wouldn't treat you in the same way I treat Betsy. Nor do I treat people in the same way, because they are different. They're the same, but they're not conventional. In the conventional sense, it's where our differences come into play. But through those differences, we can see how we come together in our interdependence and come together as one. It's what makes a strong Sangha something we can take refuge in, because it's a group of people that have come together. in interdependence and in recognizing their interdependence and the different roles. So not to attach to the roles, because that's just incidental. As Uchiyama used to refer to it, the scenery of our lives. So don't get all caught up by that. But actually, through the scenery of our lives flow and can flow in beautiful ways. And we can care for one another. Just to use a perfect example, we don't need for people, everybody, to be engaged in the same activity. So we kind of depend upon the uniqueness of beings and finding your own bliss, to use Joseph Campbell terminology, in order for harmony to come forth. It requires that kind of diversity. Whether we're talking about music or just work in the world. How can we sustain ourselves? And what different people are really pretty effective with. Have them do that. And I'll take care of things I'm effective with, and so on. So we establish senses of identity around things like that. Most natural thing. An understanding, it's just conventional. It's relative. But it serves a very helpful purpose. So don't attach to it, don't cling to it. But don't leave it behind, please. That would be a very uncompassionate thing to do, for sure. So if we truly want to do this practice, we have to integrate completely and thoroughly the relative and the absolute, form and emptiness and everything else. So as we proceed on through the Heart Sutra, we might, and this is a common response when we get to the teachings, taking away the Four Noble Truths, independent co-arising. People might say, well, there goes all the Dharma. I can throw my books away now. That would be a mistake. That's not the case. The Dharma's very effective, important teachings. But they're not to be taken in the sense of being some sort of gospel from on high. The truths that are engraved in stone, that have been handed down to us, they're not that at all. They're just guideposts for us. Use them as such. Don't attach to them, because they are empty. They are interdependent with their time and place. Talking about both sides now. So our now is a lot different from the now, even when Shahaku was writing this, within our lifetimes. Let alone from when the Heart Sutra was written, or when the Buddha lived. So we're talking about the interrelationship of the relative and the absolute now, in our time. And certainly we can learn from Shahaku, from Dogen, from the authors who penned the Prajnaparamita Sutras, and from Shakyamuni Buddha, and from so many others besides. But as we take those teachings on and begin to practice them for ourselves, we're making the Dharma alive in our time. So we can enact it, embody it, practice it, and share it in all the myriad ways that they can be shared. which far transcends merely giving talks or writing books and so on in our daily lives. To be able to create a more just society, a society that's grounded on loving kindness and compassion. So to come back to Nagarjuna and Shahaku, in this chapter, it says that Nagarjuna states that without relying on everyday common practices, in other words, relative truths, then the absolute truth cannot be expressed. And actually, there's a book by Katagiri that the title alone kind of points to this, where he titles the book, You Have to Say Something. How many Zen stories are there about silence being supreme? And those stories are conveying an important message that words cannot fully get there, cannot capture it. But yet, even accepting that and receiving that truth that's being conveyed, it's very true that without relying on everyday common practices, such as giving expression verbally, then the absolute truth can't be expressed. It's only through the conventional, because that's where we're living our lives. So actually, when a Zen teacher is kind of requiring a student to show his or her understanding in a way that goes beyond language, but they're still being asked to show it. And they may, even in the showing of it, they may use words. But maybe the words all of a sudden become like poetry. Or it could just be getting up and walking out. It could be all the myriad things that we read about in the Zen story. So there's a lot of performance art in Zen. But I hate to let out the family secret here about Zen and the use of words, but I mean, libraries are filled with the volumes. That's why we don't have a Bible. Nobody could go through all the literature to condense it down to the accepted canon of teaching. Who could possibly be up to that task? It'd be a massive concordance of all these great teachers trying to figure that out. So yeah, we definitely use words. We have koans, and we have commentaries on the koans and accompanying verses. That's just within the koan itself, and then there are all the talks, the taishos that have been given on those koans, and they're all printed, put out there, circulated. So the words all over the place, but yet the teaching about their emptiness and to be able to go beyond the words is still a very important, valuable teaching. We do have to go beyond the words. Because if we can't, then it comes back to what I was saying about the Buddhist canon, about the teachings. Just being able to say, yeah, I got it. Form is emptiness. Emptiness is form. The relative and the absolute, yeah, they're one. You've got it as far as the words go. and how they fit together. The proper Buddhist syntax. What is what? And that's easy because it's everything. So it's the easiest test to pass. That's why we never had a catechism or schools for it. What is all? All is one. Okay. If you got that, you got the whole thing. But if we have to go beyond the words, the language, in order to get there. And as I was saying earlier, how do we do that? Daily practice. We see, what does that mean? I get the words, that's easy. I don't even need to post notes with those words. I got that. We'll never forget it. But how do I live it? So that's our task here with what's being presented in this section. Both sides. Is that we understand both sides, and most importantly, we bring that understanding with us to all of our experience. We see the conventionalities, we see their absolute nature, and we do it again and again and again. We make it real. We realize it. We talk about the role of realization. That's how we realize it. That's how we do make it real, by bringing it into our life. Otherwise, these are just words I can recite. Why bother? They've been recited so much. So that's why. Zazen, the silent practice, is the core of our practice. Just sit. Just sitting, shikataza. Just enter into silence and open ourselves to what is happening now. Because it all begins there. If we can't do that, then none of the rest of it will happen either. Because we never meet anything as it's coming up in our daily life. We're just racing around to this, that, and the other thing. And we're not truly seeing anything. That's not what our mission is. We enter the day with a different mission. So maybe the most transformational thing that happens if we really put these teachings of the Heart Sutra, of Nagarjuna, of Shahaku, if we really put these teachings to use, is we do transform them. And now instead of just wandering based on the whims of now and what direction we might find ourselves being pulled in, we actually can always come back to being present, really being present with what it is right now. You know, to explain that, how it plays out in the real world, it's easy. It's just like being with just one other person. And the way it is, if you're just completely opened up with that person, and there's that open exchange, versus the all too common way of relating to other people, which is just very superficial. A lot of the time, our mind is elsewhere. And even to the degree that our mind is here, it's more self-oriented than other-oriented. You know, we're thinking about, what am I going to derive from this? I need to end this quickly. the slide, check at the watch. And so on. But to actually just be with another person. So we all have this experience. What is it like to just be present? So we can take that, use that as our primal example, but then take that out into everything we do. Just being present with open heart mind. That's how an awakened person, awakening is just seeing this intertwinement between the relative and the absolute. So when we're in that awakened state, just seeing what's arising, seeing it with great gratitude. It's no longer, something that I've earned that I could possibly earn. It's just coming together. This is what suchness is about. It's everything coming together in this moment. So that's really alien to our current worldview in this society, where we are trying to create this moment to be the best possible. We have lots of books about how to engineer just that. This isn't about any engineering. Whatever comes forth, come forth. And how will we meet that? Whatever it is. So we're not putting out how-to manuals, other than just how to be present. And that means just go sit. That's the greatest instructor, is Zazen. So that should be everybody's primary teacher. I'm just a secondary teacher. The primary teacher is Zazen. So that's why we begin with Zazen. Once you've spent some time with that teacher, now you could listen to me for a little bit. Maybe I won't cause too much harm. Because you've got your primary teachers really strengthened you. But that truly is where we go to for prajna. A teacher like me just tries not to gum up the works too badly for you. So that's, I think, what I had to say on this. It's heavy duty material, so any thoughts, comments, and we can certainly carry it over another week if there's enough interest in doing that. John?
Just, it was interesting to me that you tied compassion to form, because I think of compassion growing out of our seeing our mutuality, how we're all the same, as opposed to differentiating forms in that way. So it just struck me. That's just a comment.
Yeah. And maybe one way of coming at it is because there's that wonderful term that Trungpa Rinpoche came up with of idiot compassion, which is kind of compassion that's been separated from wisdom. And that means that we're not really dealing with the conventional world, with the world of differentiation. So we just take something like compassion, and we have an idea of it, what that looks like, and we're pouring it out in all situations. And in some situations, you could be doing more harm than good. It becomes very tricky. That's where compassion as practice has to be grounded in the conventional.
I don't take issue with that at all.
Yeah,
I mean, it's, I think I'm thinking in the developmental terms that I learned early on, which is that we teach compassion. We learn compassion because we realize our commonality with others, our sameness with others.
Right. Yeah, and that's there too, I think. Sure. Sure. Brian?
If I sort of felt, but in my experience, that's kind of can be a blunt instrument. A blunt instrument, right? Because the way, I don't know that I don't know how exactly you were indoctrinated, but we're not all the same. I mean, we are the same at that very ultimate level.
Yeah. Yeah.
But as soon as we're manifest, we start being pretty different pretty quick. And
I'm not talking about seeing that we're all the same. What I'm talking about is seeing our sameness with others. And that's not the same thing.
Right.
There are differences too.
Right.
And that's probably the point part of that.
Yeah.
But in a developmental sense, compassion grows out of our ability to see ourselves as the same as others. Even though we see that we're different from them, we see our commonalities with other people, with other beings.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of truth to that. What I see with that comment is that when our sense of otherness really becomes extreme, where the other, we don't see any commonality, kind of what came up during the Jukai class of the feeling of disgust, when we can feel disgust towards others, because that's a tool that leaders have been using very much over the past century, especially to instill that strong sense of otherness. And that when you do that, it's kind of like removing all the oxygen from compassion, and it's gone. All of a sudden now, they're not anything like us. So that's why if you're going after a community of Haitians, you want to portray them as being disgusting, as other, and they have nothing at all in common with you. Yeah. We'll overlook the fact that they're all Christians and they all those types of things. We kind of selective reporting. But that's the way that you can get people to lose compassion, is to sever any sense of commonality. So yeah, I think maybe from the other extreme, it sheds a light on what the point you're trying to make. And conversely, to actually be able to be with others, it goes a long way. This is one of the myriad things that the civil rights movement and the move towards integration was about. It's too easy to see a segment of the population as other if they always are kept separate. But through integration, it might actually change some people's hearts if they are going to school with one another and working with one another and so on and so forth. Which is why it all came to a head post-World War II, because you had all these Black people that had served in the military thinking, oh, geez, we're going to be accepted, surely entering into those kinds of life and death scenarios should do the trick. When that didn't, I think everybody realized, well, I guess we got some work ahead of us.
Just a lot.
Don't just leave it to the natural course of events. It's probably not going to be enough. So. Anything else? All right, well, we'll go ahead and chant out, but before we do so, one final plug for Saturday, where we'll be looking at the koan move. So if this was intriguing, you'll want to catch that. If you can't be here,
We'll do an introduction in a way.
Yeah, we'll make sure that we get that one recorded. I vow
To myself and to each of you to commit myself daily to the healing of our world and the welfare of all beings, to live on earth more lightly and less violently in the food, products, and energy I consume, to draw strength and guidance from the living earth, the ancestors, the future generations, and my brothers and sisters of all species, to support others in our work for the world, and to ask for help when I need it, to pursue a daily practice that clarifies my mind, strengthens my heart, and supports me in observing these vows.
All right. Well, thank you all.